Hey guys, Zack here, and this is my review of Sonic X. Okay, so this episode, Desperately Seeking Sonic, actually showcases Cosmo having a bit of character development. She kind of learns how to work better with other people in this episode, because that was something she kind of struggled with, and she also kind of embraces her cowardice a little bit and tries to kind of overcome it. And also, we get some interesting stuff about the planet eggs and how they work. So the episode actually starts off with the crew actually flying off in search of another planet to find a Chaos Emerald when they spot two things rapidly approaching them. And as it turns out, one of those things is the Metarex that actually wound up stealing the planet egg from Sonic's world. Is the Metarex Carrera. I didn't actually picture him in that episode because I thought they would all look the same, but now that's obviously not the case. So I'm going to just picture him here because I didn't in the original episode. But in any case, this marks the rematch between these two, because last time they tried to fight this guy, they were unsuccessful in doing so, and he wound up stealing their planet egg in the process. So yeah, for that reason, they actually do wind up having a bit of a rematch with this guy. So yeah, the episode he actually begins attacking their ship and actually starts trying to pull the wings off so that the blue cyclone actually collapses and actually crash lands. But case in point, their initial attempt, and they also initially fight the two Metarex because they're actually stealing a planet egg from a nearby planet and are realizing that they're just in the process of just leaving the planet, since they don't need to be there anymore. So yeah, for various reasons, they're fighting Metarex Carrera again, they do manage to take out Metarex Carrera using initially their laser weapon doesn't work, so they try the Sonic Speed Cannon, which works, and they do defeat the Metarex Carrera and actually blow the small one with the planet egg back to the planet. But in the process, they realize that they overshot it and accidentally sent Sonic hurtling into the planet as well. So yeah, now they gotta go get him, which is kind of funny. But in any case, Sonic winds up crash landing on the jungle planet that they're currently hovering over. In the process, he winds up taking out Eggman and his robot. We don't see the robot until later, but he sees Eggman, Deco, and Boko just kind of passed out on the floor after Sonic unwittingly defeated them, and also discovers that they had uncovered a Chaos Emerald and decides, and since they're obviously knocked out and not needing it anymore, Sonic decides to actually dig up the Chaos Emerald and actually decides to pocket it, pointing out that since Eggman is obviously loafing around on the job because he unwittingly got defeated by Sonic, that he likewise probably doesn't need the Chaos Emerald anymore, and proceeds to take the Chaos Emerald and run off. Meanwhile, the rest of the group has actually landed on the planet, and Knuckles and Tails are actually planning to actually go out in the X Tornado to actually go looking for Sonic. And Amy openly protests, pointing out that she wants to go with, but while Tails is a little bit nicer about it, Knuckles just straight up tells her that she's going to get in the way, and they don't really need her help because again, as Knuckles points out and as Tails tries to tell her a little bit more nicely, they're worried Amy's gonna get in the way and cause problems. So for that reason, they just leave without her, which annoys her quite a bit. Meanwhile, Cosmo and Cream and Cheese are actually investigating their new jungle surroundings with Cream merely remarking that she likes being around she likes being in new environments and exploring, and is very happy to do so because she likes learning about new things. That is she's very much a child, so obviously learning new things is exciting to her. In any case, Amy then proceeds to storm out of the blue cyclone and proceeds to actually start wandering off into the forest by herself. And when Cream wonders where exactly it is she's going, she merely remarks that she's going to go find Sonic, but all on her lonesome, and they can come whether they want to or not. And she points out that when Cream voices her confusion, pointing out that is literally what Knuckles and Tails left to go do, Amy points out that she's not going to depend on them to actually go and find Sonic, and that she's going to go do it herself. And They remarks that she's not going to sit around and be dependent on them to actually go and help. And with that, she leaves. And then what Amy says actually winds up striking a nerve in Cosmo, because she decides that she's not going to stand around and be useless either. She's going to help. So then remarks that she is going to help retrieve the planet egg, since obviously the planet egg hasn't returned back to the planet yet. And she even points out that obviously if it hasn't returned to the planet yet, that means the Metarex still have it. So she decides that until she actually has the planet egg back in her own hands, she's not going to rest until the Metarex are defeated. So with that, she then proceeds to follow Amy into the wilderness, while Cream is very reluctant to leave the ship, pointing out that obviously everybody has just kind of wandered off. And everybody who could defend the ship is gone. So realizing she doesn't want to be on the ship herself, she proceeds to just kind of leave, which leaves Chris alone on the ship doing repairs by himself, and he doesn't even realize anybody left until he realizes, hey, isn't Amy supposed to be here? So in any case, yeah, he figures out nobody's around. He figures out pretty quickly that nobody is around, and proceeds to actually. And it proceeds to try and call up a couple of people to figure out where they are, but mainly because they left without telling him. So he calls up a couple of his friends, but quickly finds out that they don't have their comm links on them, but eventually does get through to Tails and Knuckles and tells them what happened. And while Tails is a little concerned about the fact that they wandered off, and Knuckles is annoyed that they wandered off, and they even ask where they were, and Chris obviously can't give them an answer because they didn't tell them where they went. He remarks that they probably were going to go look for Sonic, and that they should probably find him quickly, pointing out that the little Metarex is still out there. And they respond that it is indeed a problem, but then the Chaos Emerald in the X Tornado actually starts reacting to the one Sonic is holding, so they decide to go emerald hunting instead, and proceed to hang up on Chris. And Chris is understandably annoyed because sometimes he feels like he's talking to himself, and with that he just goes back to running diagnostics on the ship, since he's been left by himself. What else is he going to do? Meanwhile, the remaining Metarex, the Metarex King Ape, we find out a little bit that he doesn't like fighting, like at all. As we find out, he's a very cowardly Metarex and actually doesn't like confronting people directly, and that's why Metarex Carrere was there, to provide backup for Metarex King Ape, since he obviously can't obviously he doesn't like fighting him for himself, and remarks that if he is indeed backed into a corner, they'll no doubt defeat him and take the planet egg away from him. So. But then he comes up with a brilliant idea about how he can defend the planet egg without having to fight. And sure enough, what we actually do eventually find out what it is he's mean by that, because Amy, Cream, and Cosmo are still clamoring through the woods trying to find out where the planet egg and Sonic might actually be, and are actually calling out Sonic's name when they come across an empty clearing with the planet egg just sitting in it. And while Cosmo is very happy about the fact that they found a planet egg, Cream quickly points out the fact that it's just sitting in the middle of a clearing, and that's a little bit strange. And Amy concurs with what Cream is saying, pointing out that it's almost like somebody put it there. But Cosmo immediately points out that that Trap or not, they have the opportunity to grab the planet egg, and points out that they might as well. So she does indeed go to grab it and try to pluck it up from where it's resting. And it's revealed that it was indeed a trap, and they wind up all getting caught in a giant net. So yeah, at which point the Metarex King Ape comes out and starts gloating about the fact that he has now completely duped them, and even points out that he hopes the rest of their friends are just as gullible, because obviously that was a little bit too easy for him. And he then proceeds to build a cage, and then it proceeds to exposit his master plan, which is that he's just going to go find their ship, steal it for himself, and then take the planet egg away from the planet. So yeah, ultimately he doesn't have a way to actually get off the planet, because apparently he can't fly anymore. Apparently the explosion with Metarex Carrere that sent him hurtling back to the planet, apparently apparently during that attack, he wound up losing his ability to fly, even though he's been shown. That's kind of interesting, I think. He can't actually fly by himself anymore, so he does need the plan. He does need their ship to actually get off the planet. But in any case, he then remarks that he's going to go set more traps and tells them to sit tight. And Amy is just visibly annoyed, and Cream is trying her best to keep Amy from actually going berserk and destroying the cage they're in, pointing out that it will probably be fine. And Cosmo just kind of laments over the fact that she let herself get led into a trap, and points out that she feels like she's not really contributing all that much, even though she's learning that she can better depend on that she doesn't need to depend on other people and get over her cowardice. She's still very much just led them into a trap by accident. So yeah, for that reason, she's kind of feeling a little bit silly. But by the time she actually points all of this out, Amy has actually completely trashed the cage that they're in, despite Cream's best efforts, and proceeds to point out not to worry about it since they all make mistakes. And with that, they continue to go wandering through the woods, trying to find out where the Metarex King Ape went, and they're also pointing out that their best bet of actually stopping what's going on with the ship is to actually go and find Sonic. Since even though Cream points out the stupidity of that decision, pointing out that they could just as easily go back to the Typhoon, to the Blue Cyclone, and call for backup, because obviously Metarex King Ape is just wandering around in the wilderness, and obviously they don't know where Sonic is, but they know where the Blue Cyclone is, so obviously the point would just be to go back to the ship and call for backup. But Amy outright refuses, pointing out that if they find Sonic, he could easily get back to the ship and defend it, and it's to this point where they actually wander into another trap, and obviously Amy and Cream are very upfront about the fact that nobody's that stupid to fall for the trick again. But Cosmo then proceeds to point out that it's possible that it's not indeed the same trick again, and is wondering if it's actually going to be the same trick twice, and then proceeds to point out that she'll actually go first, and tells the two of them to stay back, pointing out that if it is indeed a trap, it'll only get her. And it does wind up to being a trap, but as it turns out, Metarex King Ape actually learned a little bit and set up a snare trap that actually winds up capturing all three of them, and also in the process, because they're hanging upside down, Amy and Cosmo both cover up their skirts so that they don't actually fall down and accidentally do something not PG related. So in any case, the Metarex King Ape comes out gloating again, pointing out that he's finally caught another batch of people, but then quickly realizes they just caught the same group of people, and does point out how stupid they are, pointing out that they fell for the same trick twice. So yeah, for that reason, he does point out that as a result of that, he is kind of feeling a little bit cocky. But then he realizes that the end of the rope is actually floating, and as it turns out, Cream was actually smart enough to use her ears to start flying, and then proceeds to deliver a smackdown on King Ape to actually knock him out, and then she winds up freeing them all from the vine. And Cosmo then points out that she's sorry for actually falling for the same trap again, as they kind of leave and put their distance between themselves and King Ape. But Amy points out that it's fine, pointing out that again she was being cautious, and also points out that they had to plan an egg anyway, so it wound up working out for the best. But it's at this point where they actually get into a bit of a chase sequence with Metarex King Ape, who constantly tries to ambush them and chase them into other traps, which doesn't wind up working. The only trap he winds up successfully knocking them down is a pit trap, but the girls wind up actually combining their respective powers to deliver a smackdown on him and send him flying. Which does wind up working in their favor, and they do wind up defeating him. And upon realizing that they work the best together, as long as they work together, they actually can't be beaten. That Cosmo kind of realizes that they do need to rely on each other a little bit more, and realizes that they need to actually start using teamwork, and that she shouldn't be solely dependent on herself. But in any case, it's at this point where Tails and Knuckles do eventually find Sonic running around in the wilderness, and Sonic realizes they're nearby because he actually senses that the Chaos Emerald is glowing, and looks up to see his friends in the X-Tornado, who go into landing mode in an effort to try and rescue him. But it's at this point where Dr. Eggman unveils his robot that got destroyed, which he apparently fixed at some point, but he apparently had enough time to fix it off screen. And granted, that probably is indeed true, since we don't know what happened to him after Sonic knocked him out by accident. But in case he shows up in his latest robot, the Egg Bee, which proceeds to actually capture the X Tornado and actually does wind up stealing the Chaos Emerald from Sonic, or at least it tries to. And then proceeds to actually retrieve and put it into its receptacle, which Dr. Eggman gloats is very much fair game according to himself, because according to himself he stole it fair and square. Sonic stole it from him, but then Sonic points out the problem with that statement, which is that Sonic initially had all 7 until the Metarex showed up, but Dr. Eggman kind of doesn't care because Steelers first and all that. So. But in case they then proceed to actually power up the Egg Bee with the new Chaos Emerald, and proceed to get ready to go into a fight against Sonic and Knuckles and Tails. But it's at this point where the girls being chased by Metarex King Egg actually winds up climbing over the Egg Bee and using Deco, Boko, and Eggman as trampolines. Obviously upon realizing that Sonic is among the people there, Amy immediately pulls him in a hug and starts trying to kiss him, which Sonic is unhappy with. And Metarex King Ape is understandably a little scared, because now he's surrounded by people, both friend and foe alike. So he has no idea. So now he realizes that they're actually going to gang up on him. At which point Dr. Eggman is annoyed about the fact that he was used as a trampoline, and proceeds to actually use the Egg Bee to actually wind up capturing everybody. And actually winds up capturing it in its pincers and actually pulling them up and over. Even Metarex King Ape, who actually voices his confusion over the fact that Eggman has actually tried to capture him, pointing out that they're basically technically on the same side, because they're both trying to defeat Sonic, but Eggman even actually points out that he's not going to work with anybody who looks like they're supposed to belong in a zoo. And sure enough, King Ape does look like a baboon, so it makes perfect sense. But it's at this point where Cosmo, in a last-ditch effort to actually save all of her friends, activates the Planet Egg. I didn't know she could do that, but apparently. And I think this is like the first time it's actually shown, but she uses the Planet Egg to actually accelerate the plant growth of the surrounding vines in the area, and it works a little bit too well, because while she succeeds in restraining Dr. Eggman and his robot, she also restrains everybody else, including herself. And obviously the vines are growing too fast for anybody to actually fight back and get themselves free. So. In kind of a last-ditch effort, they wind up calling Chris, who is currently sitting on the intercom and waiting for a progress update. And when he hears everybody kind of screaming and hollering all at once, he tells them all to narrow it down and so he can narrow in on where they actually are. And upon figuring out where they are, he then believes in another ship to actually help Sonic fight back. And at which point Tails actually manages to pull himself free enough from the vines that he actually manages to reach the Chaos Emerald in the dashboard, which he then passes to Sonic so that he can supercharge himself. And sure enough, it works. And Sonic manages to free himself from the vines. And at which point Chris shows up with it again with his hover shoes. And Sonic puts on the hover shoes and proceeds to actually just grind across the vines to Eggman's ship and proceeds to destroy and dismantle it and get the second Chaos Emerald back. But then realizes that he left his friends hanging and kind of apologizes for that. So yeah, he managed to defeat Eggman, but he didn't really realize what was going on. Once they've actually been gotten free, the Planet Egg then proceeds to actually return to the planet, and they wind up destroying it winds up causing all the vines to retreat, and the Planet Egg, now back to its plan, actually causes the planet to stabilize and return back to normal. Meanwhile, the Metarex King Ape claims that he has actually learned his lesson, and that he won't be participating in what he calls monkey business anymore. especially pointing out that he isn't really built for fighting and is more built for screwing around. But upon realizing that Sonic has the Chaos Emerald, he then proceeds to try and steal it away from Sonic, which works about as well as you'd expect because Sonic is not slow. And sure enough, realizing that Metarex King Ape was lying, they then proceed to destroy him off screen. We don't actually see what happened to him, but we see an explosion, and it's a safe bet that he's dead. So yeah, we don't see the Metarex King Ape after this. He blows up. But in any case, now that they have both Chaos Emeralds, they then proceed to return back to the Blue Cyclone, and Tails points out that they've gotten 2 down and they only have 5 more to go. And Cosmo expresses her optimism in the fact that she believes they'll actually get all 7. With everybody pointing out that Cosmo seems a little bit more cheerful, and indeed Cosmo is a lot more cheerful because now she points out that she's learned the value of teamwork, and that as long as they work together, they're basically unstoppable. So, and that's where the episode ends on, with Cosmo learning the value of teamwork, because that was something she struggled with, and also her cowardice a little bit. So those are 2 things that the episode kind of addresses a little bit. She kind of learns that the importance of teamwork and relying on other people, and also learns to kind of put her fear behind her and stop running away from things. Although she kind of does do a little bit with Metarex King Ape in the last episode, in the last segment of it, but that's beside the point. She does take a bit more of a confrontational, hands-on approach in this episode, and I do kind of like that. But yeah, this episode is interesting for another reason. First and foremost, we find out that the planet eggs can actually be activated remotely, depending on who holds them. So yeah, which is kind of interesting. And also, we finally get a rematch with Metarex Carrera, and he kind of goes down like a pushover, which begs the question, which probably because they have the Blue Cyclone this time around, whereas they didn't before. So yeah, it makes a bit more sense they were able to take him out. But it's also interesting that Eggman shows up again. This time he actually winds up stealing a Chaos Emerald, but I should point out that Eggman really isn't much of an antagonist this season. He occasionally shows up and does something evil, but his evil deeds are far and few between, since the Metarex are a much bigger threat. So yeah, for that reason, Eggman just kind of takes a bit of a sideline. But it is fun when he actually does show up and actually does some evil stuff. He's not the main antagonist of the season. That role goes to Dark Oak, who we haven't met since the first episode, but he's implied to be controlling the strings behind everything. But yeah, this episode is very much interesting that we find out a bit more about how the planet eggs work, and also we kind of meet one of the best antagonists of the lot so far, in Metarex King Ape, who loves making puns and is a very frantic and fun individual. So I kind of miss the fact that he's not going to be in any more episodes after this. But yeah, in any case, that is my review of Sonic X. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comments section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below. Be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It does really help me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks. I'm always saying thanks. So be sure to check this out in the description below as well. Also, be sure to go check out my Twitch down in the description. I stream every Sunday at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, so if you want to see more content from me, that is actually one of the other ways you can do that. Just go check out my Twitch, link is down in the description, and I need 50 people to fulfill a milestone, so please go help me do that. And finally, if you want to see more content from me, then actually be sure to go check out the videos linked in the end screen. The top video is the most recent video. It may or may not be this one, whereas the bottom video is a video recommended to you based on what you've already seen from me. So, if you want to try something new, or see more of what you like, then be sure to check both of those videos out. But, regardless of whether or not you do any of those things, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!